Get this thing mother-bothering started.
The following is a presentation of SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media Incorporated.
Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. It's time for Total Football Talk Extra. I am your host, Drew Willingham, back with the extra football coverage as we are here to discuss the holiday football games from the past couple of days, as well as the Monday night game that Cole and I could not get to because we do the previews before the game actually gets started. But with this is episode 13 of Total Football Talk Extra. And here we go with the logo, banner, and all, because we got everything happening tonight to recap football within the past 5 days. With that being said, we also got to talk about the Bears calling time on Matt Eberflus after Thanksgiving Day debacle against the Lions. We got all that and more tonight on this edition of Total Football Talk Extra. Let's go ahead and take it into the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Ready.
And here with the opening drive, we're going to start it off with the Monday night football game. And yes, this game went down to the wire as far as the score goes, but the Ravens pretty much were in the driver's seat for the majority of this game. As we take a look at this 30-23 contest on this Monday between these two teams, Baltimore traveled to Los Angeles to take on the Jim Harbaugh-led Los Angeles Chargers. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh once again. And when we look at this game for what it was throughout the quarters, after one, it was 7-0 the Chargers when they took a 7-0 lead off of a Justin Herbert 5-yard run with the Cameron Dicker kick. It would be 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. This would happen with 9 minutes and 45 seconds left. The Chargers would actually go up 10-0 in the second quarter as Cameron Dicker would kick another field goal, this time a 42-yard field goal for 3 points to give them a 10-0 lead over the Ravens. Lamar Jackson would answer on the next drive with a 10-yard touchdown run with the Justin Tucker kick, would make it a 10-7 game. The Chargers would still lead at this point in the game, but not for long, as Rashad Bateman would take a 40-yard pass from Lamar Jackson to the house. The Ravens would go up 14-10 with 24 seconds left in the half. But with just 24 seconds on the clock, the Chargers would take advantage of it to get a 52-yard field goal on a nice return that they had on the kick return to set up a 52-yard field goal by Cameron Dicker, as the Chargers would only be down 14-13 at halftime. Justin Tucker would kick another field goal in the third to make it a 17-13 game, and it would be back and forth with those field goals as the Chargers would kick another one by Cameron Dicker to make it a 17-16 game, back to 1 point. In the next quarter, the Ravens would then score back-to-back touchdowns, a 6-yard pass from Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews would make it 23-16, and then Justice Hill would take a 51-yard run to the house, which would make it 30-16 Baltimore over the Chargers at this point. And then we would not see the end of it, as the Chargers would then score another touchdown, a 1-yard run by Gus Edwards, but they took too much time off the clock as there was 46 seconds left in this game. Then when the clock strikes 0, it is a 30-23 game. The Baltimore Ravens take this, and, to get some perspective on how it was within the locker room of the Baltimore Ravens, let's take a look at this.
All right, be content with what you did tonight. All right? Be content with how you found a way to win. You talk about heart. You talk about the heart of Lions right there tonight, man. That's what that was tonight. That's what's really important. Everything else, we go to work on. You can't work on having the heart of a Lion. You can't work on making the plays you made to get the job done when it counted the most. You can't. That's just either there or it's not. You have 4 touchdown passes, play after play. Who else? Hands in here. I got a question for you. Baby. I got a question for you. Who's got it better than us? Nobody! Great job, man. Proud of you guys. Love you too. So proud of you.
And it's an attitude like that that culminates in a victory like that for the Ravens. As with this win, they would go up to an 8-4 record after this Monday night game. The Chargers would fall to 7-4, still a lot better than what they were doing last year. But at the same time, some people would expect more out of the Chargers, led by Jim Harbaugh at this motherfathering point. What do you think? Let me know here in the comments how you feel about this game right here. Speaking of comments, we got a couple here. Got my man Sick Diggy in the house saying, good evening and happy War Games, folks. Yes, I'll be getting caught up on that after I finish going live here, as I wanted to make sure I got this done before all the good stuff in War Games happens tonight. It's time to get extra wild and extra deep, extra insightful. Welcome to Total Football Talk XTRA, brought to you by COMI Media and SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, based on this transition right here.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Absolutely. Now that we've gone through the first game, that was the last game of Week 12, which was this past Monday, which took place after Monday's episode of Total Football Talk. Now that we have Total Football Talk Extra, we're going to break down a little bit more within the games this week. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, we're going to talk about this probably a little bit more on Monday, but to kind of give us a little bit more of a filler, I'm already going to be doing Thursday games on here anyway. And because there was 3 of them and a Friday one, I was like, you know what? We'll have a holiday special when it comes to Thanksgiving tonight on this Saturday night. With that being said, let's take it into the Thursday games and see what we got in store for the Thursday night matchups. And it was more than just Thanksgiving night matchups. This is throughout the day, as we had a 12:30, a 4:30, and 8:20 p.m. games on Thanksgiving. The Chicago Bears traveled to Detroit to take on the Lions Thursday afternoon at 12:30 p.m. The New York Giants traveled to Dallas to take on the Cowboys at Jerry World at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the Miami Dolphins, led by Tua Tagovailoa, traveled to Green Bay in the frozen tundra. I can't do it like Cole, but I try. Frozen tundra, they did it over there in Green Bay. And we'll talk about that in this segment. Now, the first Thanksgiving game, let's talk about the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. My man Hawk was definitely excited with this one. He got lucky when you look at how this game went, because the Chicago Bears, they actually had somebody with the brain as head coach, would have made the right decisions with timeouts, with a certain amount of time left in the game. And shoulda, coulda, woulda, I know it didn't happen, but still, I mean, you play Madden, you're making those calls all day long when it comes to calling timeout. But we'll get to that here in a second. Caleb Williams did okay. 256 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Out of 39 attempts, he completed 20 passes. He also was the leading rusher for the Bears, 4 carries for 39 yards on the day. DJ Moore actually had a sighting in this game, 8 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. When you take a look at that in comparison to the Detroit Lions offense, in comparison to that, Jared Goff struggled a little bit. When you look at how he's done throughout this season, he's had some sporadic moments of where he struggled a little bit. And this one, he didn't turn the ball over. But as far as the incompletions, that's what I was concerned about. He was 21 of 34 for 221 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns on this day. He also had 1 carry for 1 yard. It's a stat. We got to include it. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying. Now, David Montgomery was what helped this Lions team out with establishing the run. He got 21 carries on the day for 88 yards. Not a whole lot, but not too less either, because he was still averaging 4.2 yards per carry. When you take a look at that in comparison to the receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 5 receptions for 73 yards on the day. Sam Laporta stole the show, though. Although he only had 3 catches for 6 yards, he hauled in both touchdown passes by Jared Goff in this game. The defense for this team, though, they were not playing to the level of Detroit Lions football when you look at the fact that they didn't really force any turnovers at all in this game. But when you look at their pressure that they applied on Caleb Williams, they did have 5 total sacks as a defensive unit. So overall, they weren't horrible, but I still expect a little bit more out of them when you're playing a team like the Chicago Bears, who have been struggling since the Hail Mary game that I was in attendance for, but you already know that because that was several episodes back when they played the Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins. Now back to current football. When it comes to this, Jake Bates missed a field goal on this day, which could have came back to haunt the Lions, but it didn't. He was 3 of 4 on the day and had a long of 48 yards, contributed 11 points to this Lions team, which definitely helped in the end. The Bears, they couldn't even rely on Cairo Santos. We'll talk about that in another day. The defense for the Bears, a defense that was supposed to be carrying the load for this team this year, only mustered up a total of 3 whole sacks. My apologies. Actually, I read that wrong. 2 whole sacks on the day was all they mustered up as a defensive unit. This is why the Chicago Bears have been playing the way they have and have a 4-8 record at this point through 13 weeks. Absolutely sad. They have been playing like a bunch of dumpster pelicans. I expletive you not. I'm serious. Pull up the graphic. It's somewhere in here. If not, at least I can just say, damn! I mean, are you surprised that the Bears walked out of there in this game against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving with the If you're surprised, you need to
Stop it. Get some help.
Just saying. When it comes to this game right here, definitely was an ugly one when you look at it in comparison to other teams the Lions have played, and they have mollywopped. Yet, yes, this is a divisional opponent, but the Bears are not the team that they were hyped up to be earlier on in this year. The Lions should have won this one decisively. They gave them way too many opportunities. Fingernail man, Caleb Williams, especially when he's the leading rusher for the team, is not good for your Bears offense. You need to establish the run outside of your quarterback. I cannot express this enough. With that being said, let's go ahead and take it into our second of 3 Thanksgiving Day games. But before we do that, we actually have to take a look at some behind-the-scenes footage for the Lions.
If you're not careful with where we're at, you start grading the wins. You know, and we need to do that to an extent because that's how you continue to get better. We got our standards. But you also got to step back for a minute and say, man, it's not easy winning this league. And, man, every week is different. And the most important thing is to find a way to win the game. And if you're not built the way we are, you don't win that game. So we came out, and we were humming pretty good. It wasn't perfect. We gave them life. Then they started coming back. And it took a lot. How about our defense, man? How about our defense? And man, that's what it's all about. Even when they came out and they scored offensively, we answered right back with a score. That helped win the game. Jack Fox, the punt all the way down to the one in a critical moment. That's what we do, man. We compliment each other. So, listen, man, I'm thankful for every one of you guys in this room, man. And you got a lot to be thankful for. We all do, man. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you too there, Dan Campbell. Biting off kneecaps and everything. Now, when you take a look at that type of motivational message that he gave his team, this is why they're 11-1 right now. Regardless of how they do it, scoreboard at the end still reflects what's happening for this team and the momentum that's on their side. And when you look at that in comparison to this next clip from the Matt Eberflus press conference after the game, you be the judge at why there are two different teams playing two different ways with two different results.
Because it's third to fourth, you got to throw it into the end zone then. So to me, it's I think we handled it the right way. I do believe that you just re-rack the play, get it in bounce, and call timeout, and that's why we held it and didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I'm the head football coach, so I'm taking the blame, of course. That's what you do. So we didn't get it done. It starts at the top, and it starts right here. So accountability is right here with me.
In the dumbest way that you could lose a football game, that's what happened to Matt Eberflus. That is why he is no longer the coach of the Chicago Bears. We do have a few comments. Sick Diggy is still rocking and rolling, says, this is what the Bears needed to get their act together. But for this season, it's too little, too late, in my opinion, he says. Perhaps this will give them something to build on for next season. Yeah, I mean, they promoted that young coach they have within that they want to see after promoting him for the second time within the season, if he's going to be someone that they can count on going forward. As far as the actual head coach, when it comes to him being the interim head coach, he's doing his job. They fire Matt Eberflus. They bring this guy in, old Thomas Brown. He's been promoted twice within the season. We're going to have to see if he can actually get it done. But old TB, not 12, is calling plays over there for the Chicago Bears now. And that begs the question, Drew Willingham, have the Bears accepted their loss in D.C.? They were having a hard time accepting it when it happened, or at least the fans did who were there, but you'll have to go back and watch that episode from a month ago when I broke that down. You know exactly what I'm talking about there, Sick Dick. They don't have to win pretty, but a win is still a win. Absolutely. I cannot agree more with that statement right there. We'll have to see how things pan out for this team the rest of the season, but the best they can do is win 5 straight and finish 9-8 to end the year. I don't think that's going to happen for the Bears. I think at best they win 4 out of the next 5, finish 8-9, but I don't think that they're going to do that either. Let me know in the comments what you think about this Bears team against the Lions. Let's go ahead and go to the Thanksgiving Day game number 2. It would help if I click the mother-fathering button. That button that we need is right. The expletive disappeared. All right. This game right here was not the right one that I wanted to click. This one. I had it right the first time. New York Giants scored 20 points on the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. This game was at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thanksgiving. Number 2 of 3 Thanksgiving Day games. We have to take a look at how this thing went down. Got a backup quarterback in the game for the Cowboys, Cooper Rush, who's definitely had his struggles, but he's also had some decent games as they came into this game on a 2-game winning streak. Now, look at who they played the previous week, the Commanders. They're, a team that had been hyped up over several weeks, and then boom, you come in, you beat them in their house. Now you're back in your house, and it's a battle of backup quarterbacks because Drew Lock is now in for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, we already know the story about how that went down earlier in the week. Cole and I broke that down. But you look at the fact that Drew Lock came into this game on 24 hours notice, less than 24 hours notice, and still put up 21 completions on 32 attempts. He had 178 passing yards and an interception. But did have 4 carries for 57 yards on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown. Malik Neighbors was also another bright spot to this Giants team, which is what kept them close in this game, as he had 8 receptions for 69 yards, 0 touchdowns, but he did average 8.6 yards per reception. The defense of the Giants still struggles also mightily. And Graham Gano was a highlight for special teams, as he had 2 field goals completed on 2 attempts with a long of 47 yards and completed 8 total points for his team out of 20 points for the day. Now, when you look at the Cowboys side, Cooper Rush, backup quarterback, 195 passing yards on the day, completed 21 completions out of 36 attempts in the air as the quarterback. He had 1 passing touchdown as well. On the ground, he had 5 carries for 0 mother-fathering yards. Come on, Coop. Got to do a little better than that. Fastest man in the world had 1 carry for 2 yards. Still did better than you, and that's even a dumpster Pelican number. Ezekiel Elliott had 1 carry on the day for 4 yards. Man, this is getting so sad watching him play, but I digress. Rico Dowdle was the highlight, though, for the running attack for the Cowboys, and you could argue that he was the number 1 reason why they won, because even though you could say, well, Cooper Rush didn't turn the ball over in this game, he played, game manager pretty well. It was Rico Dowdle that opened things up with 22 carries on the ground, 112 yards established in those carries, averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and had 1 rushing touchdown on this day. Brandon Cooks also had 3 receptions for 16 yards and 1 touchdown. Kevontae Turpin, again the fastest man in the NFL, had 5 receptions as a receiver for 53 yards. Did his job there at least. The Cowboys defense, although they gave up 20 points on the day, they had 5.5 sacks, putting the pressure on Drew Lock, as it wasn't that hard, as he had 24 hours notice that he was getting in this game. They also forced an interception on Lock, and that was by DeMarvion Overshown. With what he did there, definitely helped seal the fate for the Cowboys over the Giants, as Brandon Aubrey would also add 2 completed field goals on 2 attempts for a long of 33 yards, contributing 9 of those 27 points. He would contribute a third of the Cowboys' total points for this day. Now, looking at this game for what it was, Cowboys were winners, so I guess we actually have to have a winning clip of them at the podium.
Yeah, we just needed that one last week, kind of get the ball rolling. We, felt that victory feeling in the locker room post-game last week, and really proud of everyone on a short week. It's always tough, always hard. And another game of complimentary football, turnovers turned to touchdowns, defense playing well in the first half again. So I think everyone's kind of coming together, feeling good about it.
Coming together, all right. They're not completely knocked out. They're not mathematically eliminated. They are 2 games under 500 with the 5-7 record. But if anybody thinks the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs at this point in this season,
hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
You know as much as I know that it's nothing but a bunch of hot air and smoke that has blown up our rear ends, because all they're going to do as we get closer towards the end of the season is take the I mean, is that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
Or is it not? I mean, you know what? Let me switch over to the Total Football Talk tab and click this for all those Cowboys fans out there thinking they're going to make the playoffs this year.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Cue up Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Hey, ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete, 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 delete.
I rest my case. All right. You guys know as much as I know, the Cowboys are just messing with us on this 3-game winning streak. There's no way they're going to come back and make it to the playoffs this season.
Acknowledge me.
Acknowledge that, because if not,
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
We're going to follow that up with...
You should know your role and shut your mouth!
In the spirit of Survivor Series, it's on right now. I'm definitely going to be checking that out here very, very shortly. But to sum that up, we got Mickey Delaney in the house saying, hi, everyone. Well, what's up there, Mick? Glad to have you out here in the streams. Happy Thanksgiving to Mick from Sick, he says. And nope, there's really nothing surprising about this Cowboys team. I couldn't have said it any better myself. I was looking for the words, and you found them for me. I appreciate you out here in these streams, my man. With that being said, we're going to take this into our third and final game of Thanksgiving Day. We still have the Black Friday matchup. But when it comes to this, just because it was the Cowboys and the Giants, I'm going to click this too. Let's cue it to the next one. In the next game, again, we're going to game number 3 of Thanksgiving. That is where the Miami Dolphins came to Green Bay to take on the Green Bay Packers. This was the 8:20 p.m. game on Thanksgiving, the third and final game of this day. And the Green Bay Packers, who have been a very, very quiet team doing damage this year, I would say. They've been very quiet, very humble as they've done it. They came into this game 8-3 against a Dolphins team that had been struggling, but they were 5-6, one game over 500 coming into this game against the Packers. Now, taking this for what it is, these two teams are at 2 different spots within this season. One is on the brink of elimination at this point, similar to the Cowboys. But the Cowboys at least have a little more hope because they have won 3 straight games. Dolphins have been getting banged up a little bit here and there. Tua has been giving them a spark, but not enough of a spark they need in order to get these wins that they need against these big and better teams, like in this case against the Green Bay Packers. I don't think that anyone would have given them a shot at this point. I didn't, considering what Tua's been through, what this Dolphins team has been through, the momentum not being on their side. The Green Bay Packers, all the momentum on their side with how they've been playing this year. I mean, they came into this game again with only 3 losses. So looking at it for what it is, Jordan Love had a pretty stellar game when you look at the completions to attempts. 21 completed passes on 28 attempts. He also had 274 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs also led the way in rushing with 19 carries for 43 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Tucker Kraft, the tight end for this team, had 7 catches on this day. Pretty big for him. Oh, my apologies, 6. But he had 78 receiving yards out of those 6 catches, which was absolutely huge production for his team. Now, somebody who didn't put up a lot of yardage, but did contribute, Jayden Reed had 3 catches for 24 yards and hauled in the 2 lone touchdown passes from Jordan Love to help give this team the advantage with the Josh Jacobs rushing touchdown. This defense for the Green Bay Packers was doing their job on this day, as they had 5 total combined sacks. Didn't have any forced turnovers, but they did have 5 total sacks in this game. Brandon McManus, who was a Washington Commander before all that stuff came out about him during the offseason, went perfect on field goals for the Packers on the day. 3 completed field goals out of 3 attempts for 46 total. For a 46 long field goal on this day. It was 100%. Contributed 12 points to the 30 points of this team. Now, let's look at the other side. When you look at the Packers, let's take a look at the Dolphins. The bright spot of this was Tua wasn't that bad when it came to his play. He was 37 completed passes out of 46 attempts for 365 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. And when you look at the fact that they had no running game on the day, this is what definitely hurt them. As between their 3 rushers, including Tua, Raheem Mostert had 5 carries for 19 yards. Devin Akane had 7 carries for 14 yards on the day as well. And Tua added 2 carries for 6 yards. Altogether, that's 39 rushing yards on 14 attempts. It's not going to cut it, especially when you're playing good teams like the Green Bay Packers. Their receiving core did pretty good. You got to take a look at what Jonnu Smith did. 10 receptions for 113 yards on the day. When you add that with Tyreek Hill's 6 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. And the running back, Mr. Akane, had 8 receptions for 56 yards and a receiving touchdown. It wasn't that bad, but that's not good enough to make up for the lackluster running by your rushing attack, just like I just broke down. So when you're getting no help from your defense with no pressure on the Green Bay Packers front, with no sacks, no interceptions, no forced fumbles, your kicker has got 1 field goal on the day for 33 yards, and your punter is more active on the day than your kicker. It's just upside down, in my opinion, for this team, and that's why the Dolphins have been slipping backwards this year, with or without Tua. More primarily without Tua, but we've seen these games as of late, since he's come back from his concussion, that it's not quite working out for him. Some of his decision-making is not quite up to par. Now, look at that in comparison to what the other games have been on Thanksgiving. I did forget to play one clip after the Giants game, and that was what Mr. Daboll thought about his team.
Tough game, competed to the end. Not the results we want. Disappointing trip.
Upset when you lose, but nothing but fun. You love football, love being able to come out here and play on Thanksgiving. You want to win. Upset we didn't. A couple of things we could have done better, but last 24 hours, I won't forget it. Awesome opportunity to come out here and play. Wish you could have got it done, but I was very excited to be told I was going to be playing and come out here and try to get a win.
He tried his best, but I forgot to play that clip after recapping the Giants and Cowboys game. With that being said, since we were on the Packers and the Dolphins, let's go ahead and take it inside the Packers locker room, see how they felt after getting this win over the Dolphins.
It meant a lot to me going out there tonight. I lost 2 of my partners earlier today, tragedy, but I still showed up because I love my teammates. I'm going to be here every day.
And we love you!
Hey, man, I'm proud of y'all boys, man. Let's keep stacking these days. Let's come in and get ready to go back to work.
Pack on 3. 1, 2, 3.
There it is. Okay, look, that's another team. We just talked about the Ravens earlier with their locker room. Now we're talking about the Packers and the energy. You could feel it. They believe in one another. They're there for one another. They care. They're working together to make things happen, and that's what happened for this team in this game against the Dolphins. Facing adversity in personal life, and now they're out there getting it done for their teammate. He's actually doing some damage in this game as well. Let's take a look at how Tua felt, though, on the other side after receiving the big fat.
I think the things that we progressed on, we somewhat ended up digressing within the first half. Pre-snap penalties, things that, we thought we were getting better at. You look at penalties in general outside of the pre-snap penalties. Just the operation wasn't our style of football that we showed, and that's not how we wanted to start. That's not how we wanted to play. But I am proud of this team for continuing to stay in it, You know, in the second half, we had an opportunity, you know, to come back. Nobody blinked. Everybody continued to stay in the fight. And yeah.
So what do you think about Tua's response? Basically recapping the game the way that he did. I still don't think he's fully there. And I'm talking about from getting his bell rung earlier in the year. I'm not being harsh, just based on how he's recapping the game. I just feel that way. I hope he's doing okay. If not, brother, there's nothing wrong with sitting down. With that being said, we still have the Friday game to get to, and hands down, I feel like it was the game of the week. And with that being said, it's time to take it to Friday and the game of the week. And for this Friday special game, the special Black Friday edition in the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders travel to the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium, Arrowhead, Friday, which was yesterday at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and it was on Prime Mother Fathering Video. Definitely didn't have any glitches on my end. I enjoy watching it on my part is I watched the Vegas Raiders go to Kansas City and only lose by 2. Looking at this game for what it was, let's go ahead and break down what Aiden O'Connell was able to do in this game. What AP was able to do, not Adrian Peterson, but Antonio Pierce, the coach, and what he was able to establish against a defending Super Bowl champion, back-to-back defending Super Bowl champion, as it may. Looking at the team that lost first, Aiden O'Connell, 23 of 35 for 340 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns. When you put that in comparison to what he did on the ground, he only had 1 carry for 0 yards. All the production was in the arm that day. Looking at his running back core, Sincere McCormick only had 12 carries for 64 yards, but that is 5.3 yards per attempt, so he helped establish the run, along with Amir Abdullah, who had 10 carries for 39 yards on the day as well. Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, getting it done, and if it wasn't for Brock Bowers, this game I don't think would have been as close as it was because he had 10 receptions on the day for 140 yards, led the way for the Raiders and the Chiefs in receiving as far as total yardage out of double-digit catches. 14 yards per catch he averaged, and he also had a touchdown. The other touchdown that Aiden O'Connell threw was only to a receiver that had 1 reception, and it was for this touchdown that went 58 yards. Yes, I'm talking about Trey Tucker, number 11, the receiver over for the Raiders. It was an exciting play to watch. Go back and watch that highlight if you get a chance. And then looking at their defense, this is a big part of why they were in this game from start to finish. As you look at the amount of sacks, the pressure they put on this Chiefs team, 3.5 sacks on the day. Didn't force any turnovers, but they got pretty close on a couple of occasions. Got to give a shout out to this Raiders team, Max Crosby, and everybody involved for what they're doing for this team. As Max Crosby, 3 tackles and 1 assist. I say what I say, and I'm not saying it in malice because they are 2-10. But there are some bright spots to look at for what this team has done this year. And Max Crosby's one of them. They could have easily traded him away for capital for next year. However, he is still young enough to build around, and I don't think you would have got enough capital to fill that void that he would have left if he would have been traded. Now, looking at that to the other side, you got to look at the reigning defending back-to-back Super Bowl champion, winner of 3 out of 5 Super Bowls. That is Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 46 in his completions out of attempts for 306 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, along with Isaiah Pacheco, who had 7 carries for 44 yards, averaging 6.3 yards per carry, helped establish the run in this game. DeAndre Hopkins, what a steal he was for the Chiefs. 4 receptions for 90 yards on the day, averaging 22.5 yards per catch. No touchdowns, but he made an impact in this game, along with big man, tight end, Travis Kelce. 7 receptions for 68 yards on the day as well. When you add that in comparison to the other tight end on the other side, Noah Gray's 4 receptions for 58 yards. And Xavier Worthy, the rookie wide receiver who had 5 receptions for 54 yards, paid huge dividends for their positive production in this game that helped get Justin Watson a one reception for 60 and 1 reception for 6 yards and a receiving touchdown. So shout out to him for getting it done in the end zone. Looking at this defense, though, Chris Jones was the bright spot for this team and definitely helped out when it came down to the wire. The veteran presence definitely helped out because he had 2 sacks on the day, also contributed 3 tackles with 3 assists. Looking at George Karlaftis, also had 1 sack on the day, 1 tackle and 1 assist. Between those two, they had 3 sacks all together. So shout out to those two for getting it done in this game. When it comes to special teams, got to take a look at what Matthew Wright did. 4 completed field goals out of 5 attempts. Had a long of 42 yards, but contributed 13 out of the 19 points for the Chiefs. He was definitely one of the bright spots for this team outside of Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins, I would say. That's just my opinion. And it even got to the point to where Andy Reid had this to say.
There were some good things. Most of all, the win was a positive here. And these things are hard to get in this league, and especially against this crew. They do a nice job, and against us, it seems like every time we play them, so it comes right down the end.
I mean, divisional games, it always comes down to that. Even if a team has got 2 wins, like in this case for the Raiders, gave you some of the best competition you've had, and a lot of the games you've faced against pretty decent competition that just weren't on their best game. But the Raiders were in this game, and it was primarily because of their defense, definitely containing that offense pretty well. And AP speaks up on how his quarterback did in this game in this clip right here.
I think Aiden, our team, the effort, the fighting throughout, these guys battled even at the very end till the clock hit 0. These guys believed that we were going to win, and they fought their asses off to the end. All 3 phases at some point contribute to helping us get in that position. But Aiden did obviously a hell of a job. He stayed in the pocket, made some big-time throws for us, was able to push the ball down the field. Obviously, the numbers say what they say, but, he really stepped up.
He really did. So looking at that for what he did in this game, he didn't throw any interceptions. He had 2 touchdowns and threw for over 300 yards, nearly 350 yards, and only had 11 incompletions out of 35 attempts. I say it was a pretty successful game for Aiden O'Connell, and he might be proving that with some actual help around him, like an offensive line, some weapons to throw to now that you've traded everybody else away, give him somebody else besides a tight end to throw to and a decent running back room, and I think they can have some success with this quarterback. But it all depends on what happens in the draft, who they get during the offseason. If there's a coaching change, it's a whole lot for the rest of us to discuss at another point in time outside of this episode. We got plenty of time. We got the offseason to discuss that. But for right here and right now, we almost had this. But we didn't, because the Raiders didn't win, and that's how it all went down for the game of the week. What do you guys think? Let me know here in the comments how you are feeling out here in these streams. It looks like we got some comments from my man. Corey Mann is in the house. Go back and check out episode 7 of The Grind that is out. It's about a 20-minute episode. Definitely was digging what my man was saying about Tongaloa in the bloodline, Tamatonga, and don't even get me started. I'm about to jump off here shortly so I can check all that out. Sick also says, as much as he wants to stay upbeat, Tua still needs to address a lot of things in the offseason, both on and off the field. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better than that either. You've been rocking and rolling with these today. They're sick. It's always a battle between the Raiders and the Chiefs. Don't you just love intense rivalries? Absolutely. I mean, you got to love the intense rivalries. This is what makes sports what they are. Not just football, But outside of football, baseball, basketball, rivalries help increase the impact of what a sport is to the fan. So, shout out to the rivalries in all of sports, Braves and Phillies, Yankees and Red Sox for baseball. Look at basketball, the Celtics and the Lakers, of course. And then here, you got to look at the Raiders and the Chiefs. And there's also, you can say, the Commanders, the formerly known as the REDSKINS, and the Cowboys, and many, many more rivalries throughout all of sport, as Kyle Nash would say. Not with an S, but with sport. Now that we are here, we've gone through all of the holiday games at this point in the show. We now have something else to go through, and that is where we have to take it into the Grand Champ of the Week.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2 on 2 on 2. Ready? Ready.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Where my dogs at? Yes, changing things up a little bit, trying to give it a little more pizzazz if I can, and hopefully to make Cole proud. Is this right here for Total Football Talk Extra? It's time for the Grand Champ of the Week. Let's go ahead and start it off with an honorable mention. Rico Dowdle is an honorable mention, I would have to say, for the Grand Champ of the Week. 22 carries for 112 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. I know he's a Cowboy, but you got to give credit where it's due, okay? We're not going to sit up here having Tyrone Alizé McDummy getting all upset. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do this for him.
Acknowledge me.
That's not happening for old Tyrone Alizé McDummy, because we'll just make this happen for you if you keep pushing the button there, Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Guess what? Shut up. You'll be on a fucking plane.
No! And for that, Tam.
You're fucking scared. Yeah, you're fucking scared.
Don't get too comfortable over there, Cowboys Nation. At some point soon, you're going to get served. All right. So now with the Grand Champ of the Week, we've discussed the honorable mention, that being Rico Dowdle. Let's take a look at the actual Grand Champ of the Week. We're going to give it to Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers, 21-28 in completions out of attempts for 274 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. The one and only, I wouldn't say, well, I got to walk that back. Wasn't the one and only, because you got to look at what Jacobs did on the ground. But as far as in the duel between the two teams, Tua and Jordan Love, he had a better completion percentage, didn't help his team lose, helped his team win. And for that, you got to give him credit where it's due. That's why I have Jordan Love as my Grand Champ of the Week. Your Grand Champ of the Week is brought to you by SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, and COMI Media, making real magic happen, making content magic happen in the real world. I butchered it. I'm sorry, Cole. I tried my best. Now, the Grand Champ of the Week, again, Rico Dowdle, honorable mention. Jordan Love, the actual pick for the week. And with that being said, we've gone through the Grand Champ of the Week. We now have to take it to the Snowflake of the Week. As we went to that transition, and now this one.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Oh, yeah. Besides that right there, it's now time for the Snowflake of the Week. which is brought to you by SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media. Excuse me, right there, a little bit of a cold coming through, but Snowflake of the Week. Got to talk about the honorable mention for Snowflake of the Week. I'm going to give it to Daniel Carlson, 1 of 4 on field goals for the day. He lost the game for his team. Also, when you wear a cowboy hat looking like that with that kind of smile on your face, you automatically get served the... I didn't put the hat on. You did. Because look at this right here, old DC. 1 of 4 on field goals for the day, especially when your team, the Raiders, only lost by 2 points on this Friday. And you missed not 1, not 2, but 3 mother-fathering field goals on this day. You definitely deserve to be the honorable mention, if not the Snowflake of the Week. But I'm going to give you the honorable mention because you weren't the only reason why your team lost. But you did lose the game. So technically, you should be the Snowflake of the Week. But I've got an even better pick. It's a dual pick for Snowflake of the Week because they come from the same team. They were both part of impacting the very end of the game where they could have won it, but bad management of the clock by not only the coach, but the player, the quarterback himself. This, I think you know where I'm directing this to, and it's definitely the Chicago Bears. We're going to give the Snowflake of the Week pick to Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus. We might as well just give it to the entire dumpster Pelican Chicago Bears team while we're at it, because they are absolutely terrible this year. 4-8. Yes, you can point the finger all you want to at old Matty Eberflus. I call him Eberflus because he must have the flu 365 days a year because of the type of decisions that he makes. I mean, say it for what it is, for what you think it is. This is what I think it is, because you should know in that moment that you need to call that timeout. This is an absolute dumpster Pelican excuse. I'm going to click the button again from what he said earlier.
Because it's 3rd to 4th, you got to throw it into the end zone then. So to me, it's I think we handled it the right way. I do believe that you just re-rack the play, get it in bounce, and call timeout, and that's why we held it and didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I'm the head football coach, so I'm taking the blame. Of course, that's what you do. So we didn't get it done. It starts at the top, and it starts right here. So accountability is right here with me.
Yeah, you sure as expletive didn't get it done, because it turned out to be... so terrible. So terrible. This is definitely one of those moments where I need you, Sir Charles.
That's terrible.
It absolutely was. You can't deny it. Looking at this for what it is, that's why I have both Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus as my selections for Snowflake of the Week at this point in Week 13. This could change. By the time we get to Total Football Talk on Monday morning, I could change my mind. But as of right now, through the games we've seen through Thanksgiving and Black Friday, I'm going with these two individuals as my co-Snowflakes of the Week. And this was brought to you by COMI Media and
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Let's now take it on into the Gridiron Scoop. So for the Gridiron Scoop, we brought it back last week, basically just talking about a few topics within the game of football. And the first one that I want to talk about, I don't have any fancy graphics for the Gridiron Scoop stuff because I just ran out of time. But to be honest with you, we got to talk about one part of the CFL for a minute. It's not going to be too long. It's just going to be a pretty brief one, but there was some news that came out of the CFL from the time we ended last week's episode. And that is the fact that Vernon Adams Jr. got traded from the BC Lions to the Calgary Stampeders about 4 days ago, which is absolutely huge because the Calgary Stampeders had absolutely no help at quarterback this past season. And the BC Lions were basically trying to shove Nathan Rourke down everybody's throat as the number one quarterback. And when all that happened, it basically just took the wind out of the sails for Vernon Adams Jr. And even though they tried to reinsert him at the end, it was too little too late. And all the momentum was gone. And they ended up getting ousted from the CFL playoffs pretty quick. But the Stampeders had a pretty rough year this past year. They were 5-12-1 with a winning percentage of .306, the worst in the entire league, the worst in not only their division of the West Division, but worst in the entire CFL. I don't think that this trade for Vernon Adams Jr. is going to be just enough to turn it around from them to go to from a 5-12-1 team in the West Division to something that can be pretty respectable. I think that they're going to have to make some more moves on the offensive line. Their defense wasn't horrible. I've seen, other CFL teams with worse defenses, even ones that had success because they had better offense and better special teams coverage. But overall, this offense needs a complete overhaul. Besides just the quarterback position, Vernon Adams Jr., looking at him for his age too, I mean, he's up there in age. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's 31 years old, which I know it's not like he's a running back because that's ancient for running back years. Quarterback, you got about another good 5-6 years, maybe. And that's at the style of football that you're playing now in the CFL, which is much different. I feel like as a player, as a quarterback, it would be a little more stressful because you have less opportunities to convert first downs. As to where NFL, you have 4 downs per drive, per possession. You convert the first down, you get 4 tries to do it within a possession. CFL, you have 3. So on third down, you either punt it if it's like 3rd and 12, or you go for it. And if you go for it and you miss, the other team gets the ball, and it happens in 3 downs instead of 4. So for the Calgary Stampeders, it's not going to be enough to completely fix their season next year. If this is the only move they make, can they get an additional 1 to 3 wins? Maybe, but that's still not good enough to put you in the playoff hunt. Still not good enough to get you competitive with the other teams within your division, which is why you're in last to begin with. So hopefully this move for Vernon Adams Jr. pays off because I really like Vernon Adams Jr. I like the style that he's brought to the game of football over the last decade and the highlights that I've seen from then to present. But overall, I feel bad for him if they don't make any positive moves and turn this thing around because the Calgary Stampeders could have a little bit of a culture problem.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, let's take it into the NFL for a little bit of different. I still think it's wild that that clip we listened to, Matt Eberflus said he handled it the right way. I just don't believe it. But besides that, we've already talked enough about that throughout this episode. Let's talk about the fact that the NFL fined Seahawks quarterback Kobe Bryant $6,594 for Marshawn Lynch tribute after the pick 6 he had against the Cardinals this past weekend. Now, those of you that, like our guy Marshawn Lynch, who, I used to call Skittles. I think other people did too, because he had this infatuation with Skittles as he played, the little sugar rush he would get. Yeah, you took Skittles dance and you got punished for it. But $6,000. I mean, this is nothing when you look at what these players make in a game. It's a lot for me and you to have to pay that kind of a fine, but for someone who makes that probably per catch, I think he's going to be okay. But that was handed down today as punishment for the Marshawn Lynch dance that he did this past weekend. And that's what we saw in the NFL as far as punishments for today.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now, when it comes to Sunday Night Football that we're We're supposed to have a game against the Bills and the 49ers, but there is a weather alert of up to 3 feet of snow that could hit Buffalo before that game kicks off. 3 feet of snow is going to be tough to play in, and I don't know if they're going to be able to prepare enough to have that field ready to go, and whether it's tarps or whatever they're doing to protect it, I don't think that's going to be enough. So it's a pretty good chance that either in the next few hours they're putting them on planes and flying them to a universal spot to play at, or don't be surprised this game gets postponed, rescheduled, or all out canceled, because 3 feet of snow is pretty tough to play in, no matter if you're playing NFL, CFL, expletive FL, UFL, any FL. Acknowledge me.
Acknowledge me.
Come on now.
Who's giving them the business?
Besides snow, besides fines, besides trades, looking at it for what it is overall, you got to feel bad for certain players like CeeDee Lamb, even though he is on the Cowboys. You got to feel bad for him, where you're at this point in the year, your team's starting to win, but you're pretty banged up and you can't really contribute to the level that you want to contribute to. And if you do try to go out there, you're going to get hurt even more, to where you might not even be able to play in the moments that matter the most. And that's what we've been seeing lately out of CeeDee Lamb. And putting all that together, that's why I said earlier, you can't take this Cowboys team seriously, because their biggest weapon is banged up pretty bad. You're not going to be able to rely on him down the stretch when you really need those tight catches and tight windows in decisive games, if you're going to climb back up to be 8-7 with, 2 weeks left in the season. Hey, you get upset if you're a Cowboys fan looking at this right now. I'm telling you, you'll probably acknowledge it before I will. You are not going to the playoffs. It is not going to happen. I rest my case.
Who's giving them the business?
In football news, when it comes to doubts and questions and injured reserve list, Niners quarterback Brock Purdy did not play this past week, and he might not play again this Sunday. He is questionable to play against the Bills this Sunday night, as his shoulder is still pretty banged up. Looking at that for what it is altogether, should the 49ers have signed Daniel Jones instead of the Vikings? You let me know out here in the comments, and I'll get to your comments here in a few minutes.
Who's giving them the business?
All right. 2025 is right around the horizon. December is a day away. Okay, less than a day away. We're like hours away from December 1st. We got to start thinking about free agency a little bit. Some of these players we're watching on certain teams now making impacts or a lack thereof are going to end up with other teams. If you had a moment to where you could take a moment and comment in the comment section, whether you're watching on COMI Media, whether you're watching on SIRTOBA Media, whether you're watching on my personal channel, whichever one, and let me know who are your top 3 free agents that are going to leave the team that they are currently with. You don't have to say who you think they're going to, but which 3 of the free agents that are going to be available for 2025's offseason do you think are going to move to a team and make the biggest impact? You don't have to say which team, but I do challenge you to say which 3 players do you think in positions. You're probably going to pick quarterbacks or wide receivers or whatever. But I challenge you with that here in the Gridiron Scoop right before we take things on out of here, because, hey, I need you to pick this up and give me something to run with. I'm giving you a lot. You give me something out here in these streams.
Who's giving them the business?
Now, with that said, we've gone through all the things in the Gridiron Scoop. We've discussed the Snowflake of the week. We've discussed the Grand Champ of the week. We've discussed the opening drive. But what we have not done yet is the post game. Let's go ahead and take it there so we can get to these comments.
As long as it's one. That's great.
And here with the post game. First of all, shout out to my man Sick Diggy for keeping things live and well out here in the chat for me, because I did go a little later today than expected. And I normally have been bringing this show on Fridays, but I had to play catch up with CGR yesterday. So if I can get that back to Tuesdays, hopefully soon, then I can get this back to Fridays, not have to do this on Saturday. But with that being said, Sick Diggy says, hats off to Jordan Love as well as Nico Dottle. Yes, I mean, you agree, it looks like, with my two selections for the grand champ of the week and the honorable mention. Can anybody say, moron? What was Daniel Carlson thinking? This was not his game. Oh, it absolutely was not his game. I think you're definitely picking up what I was throwing down, which is why him and this stupid hat and all are my selection for the honorable mention of the snowflake of the week. Stupid hat and all. That's what we're going to say in our caption. Stupid hat and all. Right there for Daniel Carlson. I had to. As soon as I saw that picture, I figured that it would fit very, very well. Right here, Sick also says, Caleb Williams is pretty much out of the hunt for Rookie of the Year. Will his sophomore year be any different? Let's hope so. Let's hope they get a competent coach in there who doesn't just get to a situation, have a brain fart, and then come up with some stupid excuse like this.
Because it's third to fourth, you got to throw it into the end zone then. So to me, it's I think we handled it the right way. I do believe that you just re-rack the play, get it in bounce, and call timeout, and that's why we held it and didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I'm the head football coach, so I'm taking the blame, of course. That's what you do. So we didn't get it done. It starts at the top, and it starts right here. So accountability is right here with me.
I want to say more, but I'm holding my tongue. Hopefully a change of team and scenery might be what Adams Jr. could help both him and Calgary. Only time will tell. We've seen this in sports, not just football, and not just in different leagues between CFL and NFL for football or NBA or even baseball. Just like you're saying here, change of scenery sometimes is good for the talent. Good for the franchise as well, depending on the situation, depending on the sport, depending on the opportunities. In this case, for Vernon Adams Jr., on paper, it looks like a really good opportunity because he finally gets out of the shadows of the Lions, finally gets a chance to be the guy somewhere. But the problem that I have with him being the guy in this particular situation is it's not a good enough supporting cast around him. And I'm not talking about the wide receivers. The running game, for one, is questionable in my opinion, and two, that offensive line is questionable. So I feel bad for Vernon Adams Jr. if they don't make enough moves this offseason to get him the help he needs, because right now Vernon Adams Jr. is not enough to help turn things around for this team. I just feel very strong about that. But with that being said, as we are here in the post game, we talked 5 games today, a whole lot more than what we normally do at one time because of even the way CFL's broken down. We usually don't talk about that many games in an episode. It went a little bit faster because it's just me doing Total Football Talk Extra this week and potentially next week as well. But at some point, there are a few other guests that I'm going to have in here to discuss football with me. Again, another big shout to Ryan McCarthy, as he'll be back on at some point, but he's got some personal obligations within his schedule that he needs to, fulfill, and he needs the time that we were using on Fridays and or Saturdays sometimes to take care of that stuff right now. So at some point within the next 2-3 months, we'll have him back on here to talk some CFL, some UFL, maybe back around the Super Bowl. He can come join me and Cole on a Total Football Talk episode, or even here with Extra. But there are some other individuals out there, men and women out there within the games, within the sport of football, primarily NFL, that I'll be able to chop it up with. So we shall see how things go. Right now, at the hour and 15-minute mark of episode 13, for those of you like Sick Diggy who've been tuning in since the beginning, For those of you who've been tuning in during the replay and not necessarily the live, thank you as always for taking the time out of your day to check out our product over here at
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
As well as at COMI Media, where bringing content magic into the real world, or making content magic in the real world. I might have to go to do my studying because it's been a while since I've said that from a man, Cole. But shout out to Cole Johnson, our EP of all EPs, as part of our Brothers in Broadcasting crew. Sick Diggy also adds Fair Enough, as well as have a great Sunday and Cyber Monday, folks, especially you at Drew Willingham. Thank you very much there, sir. As I did some shopping online yesterday, and I'll have some shopping to do on Monday, or at least window shop. I don't know if I'm going to actually buy anything on Monday. I think I got what I need already. But hopefully you have everything you need. Hopefully all of you out there enjoyed your time with your loved ones. If you do have ones around you can spend time with during the holidays, whether you celebrate Thanksgiving or not. Hopefully you got to enjoy the past couple of days. I've only got one more thing left to tell you. When it comes to the game of life, when it comes to the game of football, when it comes to everything, when you put one foot in front of the other, everyone, please, as always, stay safe out here in these streets. The button didn't click, so I'm going to stay safe out here while clicking buttons. You don't have to go home, but you got to get your cell phone up out of here. If you want to check myself out on social media, you can holler at me at Instagram at @TheRealDWilly with periods in between each of those words. Go to X, aka formerly known as Twitter. You can go to @D_Willy33 to follow me on X, and on Snapchat, Slicing for Days. It's an old name, but hey, you can go follow me there if you'd like to. And on Facebook, the old school, the old people social media platform, you can find me at just my name. Everybody, as always, please stay safe out here in these streets.